Welcome back to another episode of the Roll Blob podcast on the Big East Energy Network. Joined as always by Xavier Great, Kenny Freese, and Jason, aka Cap Meyer. My name is Coop Ludford. Today we have the honor and privilege of being joined by Mr. Musketeer Report himself, Taco Bell aficionado, the one and only, often duplicated, never imitated, something like that, Rick Broering. Rick,
nailed it. Thank you.
How the hell are you?
Incredible introduction. I really appreciate that. You know, upon a time, you guys had a guy on your show that had a dump truck room that we used to talk about a lot. And I thought it would never get weirder than that. But you two always podcasting from the same room is actually weirder to me. So I can't wait to do this interview.
Well, it's crazy what AI can do. It's a software we pay for. It's really expensive, but it does give the appearance that we're like the same in the same room. It's crazy.
All right. I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But Kenny, what's up with you, Ken? You ready to talk about more Shootout? Was this podcast 5 for you?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but I mean, I'm always ready to talk about it. I want to get this podcast going. We talk about what we're going to talk about, and then I'm probably just going to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, go to work for about 3-4 hours, and then get on the road. So
it feels like the Shootout should have been yesterday. This week has just crawled.
Dude, I mean, oh my gosh, it's a long. I mean, I'm happy that the team has this time to get their ducks in a row. But man, as a fan, this has been a long week. I mean, it has to be a long week for the players too. I hated those long, drawn out times when you don't have games for 4 or 5 days. I mean, the good news is they won, and like when you have those times where you lost, it was like you're going into that next practice like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to us? So good for them on that at least.
Well, Rick, it's been beaten into the ground at this point. It's Thursday night. We're ready for it all to go down. But what are you finding most captivating going in or as the week has gone on?
I continue to go back to the matchup between UC's front court defensively and Xavier's front court on the offensive end. I think, to me, that's where a lot of people are talking about the three-point shooting of both teams. A lot of people are talking about the turnovers and will Xavier continue to be able to take care of the ball against UC's pressure defense? To me, it comes down to, can UC's defensive, their front court stay strong and continue to be as elite as they are from a metric standpoint if the big men are trying to guard Jovan Milicevic and Trey Carroll on the perimeter? Or do they have to complete, like I've seen people on our message board saying they think they're going to put Sham, the 7-footer, on Filip Borovichinen at the small forward spot, like because he's not as good of a shooter as the other two. I mean, if you're doing that, to me, that's a win for Xavier. Yeah. Because Phillip's a ball handler who's going to be out in actions on the perimeter too. It's not who you want Sham guarding. He's not going to have as big of an impact against a guy like that. So again, I'm very curious to see what type of concessions UC has to make, or if they don't, if they're guarding Xavier's front court just fine with the guys they have and they're able to keep that edge defensively, then I think Xavier's in a world of trouble because I don't know how they're going to be able to score against this UC team. But to me, that's where the game is decided right there, in whoever wins that matchup.
Yeah, and that's, dude. I just had this conversation. I said it to Paul and earlier today. The guys that are, if they play straight up against Xavier on offense, those guys are going to have to come off ball screens guarding the ball handler. I mean, they're not going to be able to switch too much. I don't think it'll be interesting to see that. But these guys, Trey and Jovan, they put opposing big men in positions that they generally aren't in. And I think that's something that's the reason why Jovan can go 5 for 9 from 3 and get 9 like good looks from 3 in games, because these guys aren't used to having to guard somebody like that. So I think that's, I mean, 100% I'm with you on that. But, Phil, I think, is going to be a big part of this game. He's a big part of the game, every game. But I'm saying from the perspective of getting his hands everywhere on defense, forcing turnovers, being the guy that's going to get on the floor, creating all that defense to offense, scoring in transition. I think that he's going to be a huge part of this game. And if they put a big man on him, and I mean the big man's going to have to come off ball screens, because Phil, he's not the best shooter, but the way that he plays, he gets himself into good spots and finds open teammates. And so, I mean, if that's something that they're going to do, it'll be really interesting to see how they're able to handle Phil, because Phil's basically, I mean, I know that he's a 3, but he basically plays the point most of the time.
Yeah, and especially in this game where you have a couple of really good perimeter ball pressures and like Day Thomas on a guy like All Right potentially, you might just have Phillip run the point in this game and be like, hey, give you the ball and let you run it because you got an easier matchup here. You're not going to get pressured as much by a Shana Bayev or potentially a center if they've decided to do that. But like, I mean, to your point, Kenny, if they decide to put Sham on Philip Borovichinin, I would assume they're doing that to leave him wide open from three. Like, I don't think they're even attempting to guard him if they make that type of concession. I assume they're doing that to keep Sham in the paint and let him protect the rim for them.
Yeah,
Philip can make a wide open three, I think. I mean, if he doesn't, then UC obviously has a win in that regard. But if he is wide open, this could be your standard Mick Cronin. Can't believe the guy came into the game shooting 20-something% from three and lit us up for 4 3-pointers type of situation here.
Yeah.
Do you think that they can cover both Trey and Jovan? I think one of those two is going to have to be a situation. I think they're both hard to guard. And they're both pretty much knockdown shooters, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think Baba Miller will be fine against one of the two, but he can only guard one of them. And then you have to make a real decision with the other one. And it's like I said, I mean, are you going to have Sham guard Jovan on the perimeter? Like Kenny said, Jovan's going to take 12 or 14 threes then in that case, and most of them are going to be really good looks probably, and you're playing a real gambling game there if you want to let Xavier's hottest shooter get a bunch of good looks off from three in a rivalry game in his home arena. Right. So I it's a really tough decision, but I will say, as much as people bag on Wes Miller, and I'm guilty of this, I think this is what Wes Miller is actually best at as a coach. I think the one thing he does well is figures out ways to solve problems on the defensive end, come up with good matchups, come up with good schemes to guard opposing top players. And so I'm very curious to see how they go about this, because I do think it's something Wes actually does pretty well.
Interesting. What is your opinion on how that plays out?
I don't know on Xavier's offensive end. I mean, I've given my prediction. I think, UC is going to have an issue at some point because I think Xavier's going to switch to a zone. That's just my thought on it. I think you've already seen the zone being worked on the last few weeks. He brought out a different 1-3-1 the other night, even though it looked terrible. I think it's clear that he's been trying to get them ready for games where they're going to need it. And this is a game where I think you might end up needing it. You have a couple of shooters to worry about in Kirk Reese and Dede Thomas, obviously. And Shana Bayev, if he gets hot, he can be dangerous and very streaky. But my guess is UC gets a little bit of a lead scoring at the rim. Xavier has some trouble there with Baba Miller. They go to the zone, and then it's like, all right, Wes, what do you got? Because this is where you've really struggled to figure things out mid-game and change up what you're doing and give your team some options. That's where I think Xavier kind of helps themselves. On the other end, yeah, it's good. I have no prediction for how Xavier's going to do offensively. It's so much of it comes down to that matchup we're talking about in the front court, and it's like, if Xavier can get off with that, because it's not just that. Like, if you get Jovan and Trey going a little bit, I think you open up all types of other wrinkles. You've got them chasing you a little bit. They're messed up. They're not themselves on the defensive end. But if they don't have to adjust to that and they're fine guarding you, then I think Xavier's really going to have a hard time, because UC's bigger, they're more athletic, and they are very good defensively.
Well, on the flip side of that, if they were to do that with it, the way guarding Phil with a big guy, I think that if he's able to come down and at least make them honest, hit one or two and make them have to start thinking about it, as guys are driving into the hoop and they're passing it out to Phil, and Phil's keeping you honest, and you're having guys that are having to stunt to him or go to him in a way to just make him a little bit uncomfortable, then the ball's moving and all of a sudden all right's wide open in the corner, and that creates even more problems. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Xavier's going to have to execute on offense and find ways to get open shooters. And, if it comes down to Phil having to hit a couple threes, like the threes that he does take in general, I feel like he's taking those shots because out of necessity, right? Like he's not forcing up bad shots. So if he's open, I think that you're going to find that he's a competent shooter. He's not going to go out and shoot 40-50%, but he can knock them down. Even if he banks one in, that's good enough for me.
And their ball's just a miss, Kenny. It just counts as a miss.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. No, but I mean, at the thing that people don't think about with Xavier is that they haven't been great defending the post, or defending inside, I should say.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have 3 guys legitimately on their team, 4 guys on their team, and not even counting Pop, that are 6'10". Phil's like what, 6'7", 6'8". Like they're not a small team. So if they do end up going into a zone or whatever that is, I think that they're going to be able to create some problems inside, but then that leaves open shooters on the outside. So it's just going to be a game of a lot of communication on the defensive end. And on offense, it's really hard to stop a team that has 4 legitimate shooters. Like if you have 4 shooters on the court, you're going to be able to get somebody open, and then you just have to knock down your shots.
And Roddy's been hitting lately too. Roddy's 3 balls improved a lot.
True. Yeah.
But I guess I think about it, Rick, if I'm just putting my hat on objectively, I feel like it is going to be a dominant Xavier crowd, at least from what it seems like. And then 2, I feel like I would trust a team that knows who they are, but to some degree and has offense. I would rather have the offensive team than the defensive team, personally, in a shootout. I think it's going to be a player game where the players know who they are. I'd rather pick Xavier in this one, but I'm not uber confident. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I took Xavier by 4 points in my prediction, 68-64. The full thing was kind of what I was telling you before. I think UC is going to get up. Xavier's going to have a hard time stopping them in the paint. They switch to the zone, and then UC goes through a drought. They get stagnant. Jovan or Xavier maybe starts hitting some few threes. Cintas crowd gets into it. And then the big thing is the reason I don't trust UC, and I'd picked them to win this game before the season started, and I've changed my mind over the last few weeks, is because I just don't trust Wes Miller in this situation. I also think he is carrying a lot of baggage for his team right now. There's a ton of pressure on him. He's really feeling it. The fan base wants him out. They're getting loud behind the scenes and actually at the games booing him. Yep. And I think that's the whole team is feeling the walls cave in a little bit on their coach. I think that's leading to some pressure. And I think if they get in that situation where they're in a drought, Xavier's hitting a few shots, and Cintas is rocking in the second half, I don't know if they can get themselves out of that right now. Now, it might never come to that. They might win the game by 10 points. They're definitely capable of that. And I know that's talking out of both sides of my mouth and copping out when you're asking me to give a prediction. But in a game where you don't know what to expect, I'm going to bet against Wes Miller and the situation that his team is in mentally right now.
Well, and that's the hardest part about trying to make any prediction about this game, because we've seen both teams be completely different from one game to the next. Yeah. So it's almost impossible to make a prediction. And that's why this shootout, to me, even more so than the last few years that I've really been watching again, it's such an exciting feeling because you really don't know what you're going to get. Xavier could legitimately win this game by 15. If they come out and shoot 50% from 3 and do something crazy like that, which they have the capability of doing, and they come out and hit, like, I don't know, 14 for 30 from 3 or 16 for 30 from 3, like that, they could win the game by 30, but they could win the game by 15. But if they come out and they shoot, they're not shooting the ball well from 3, and they shoot 20%, it could get ugly real fast. So I think that's the biggest issue with all of this, is that you just don't know which team you're going to get from either side. And if we get both teams playing at their highest level, it's going to be it could be a crazy game. And I think it could
be a crosstown classic.
Crosstown classic. The crowd will hopefully play a huge role in this game, and that's one of the reasons why I'm.
That was the same room as you had hit you.
Yeah, well, Rick mentioned the baggage that with Wes Miller. Perhaps that baggage will be on a plane to Hilton Head soon. We will see. But one thing I'm curious to see about is just the crowd, of course, because I've seen some stuff where people have kind of been down on the crowd so far this year.
For UC?
No, for Xavier.
Okay.
Well, for both, yeah.
Well,
but it's the shootout, Coop. Like, they're going to show up for that. It's not like you're going to have empty seats for this game.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Not Xavier fan wise.
Not Xavier fan wise. And then plus the whiteout. This is where I want to rant for a little bit.
All right, go crazy.
You can't have a whiteout announced at 4 p.m. the day before it's happening. You're supposed to separate your whites from the rest of your laundry.
I don't do that.
If you don't do that, you probably shouldn't be allowed to vote. I'm just going to say it.
I agree.
So I have some white clothing, but it's not clean. I have to separate it. I don't have time to wash it. I had to work today. I'm not gonna have time to get it done.
My at-President shirt is gray. What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah. And the home whites, Xavier's wearing the home whites, which I think for a whiteout, you do have to wear white unless you're Penn State. That's why they always lose them. And that's why they can't hire a coach, because they can't get their whiteouts right. It's terrible. But I think the crowd, it's going to be really cool to see just how fired up these new players get. Yeah. And Roddy too, because he's been a part of it from, the bench and everything, but having those big moments where, this is going to be the first game a lot of the fans go to, you know what I mean? Or maybe the only game they go to all year. Like, it's this is the game that everyone circles, obviously. So I can see like All Right hitting a shot and doing the zip them up or something like that. I'm just really excited to see that group of guys just kind of.
And there's been a fire in Roddy's eyes, I feel like. Like
Oh,
in media availability, he just looked different than everybody else. You could just see it in his eyes, like just
Really?
completely locked in. I was interested to hear from you, Rick. Like I saw people talking about the Richard Pitino post game. I didn't really think anything of, or not the presser.
Yeah,
I didn't really think it. Do you think anything of it? Of how he approached it?
I think he's really honest. Like every coach is going to give you some cliche coach talk answers because you have to fill time and you get asked the same stupid questions over and over and over and over and over again. So at some point you just say whatever to get through the press conference. But in most cases, he's like allergic to cliche coach speak answers. He's not, even if you ask him the dumb question to get that answer, he doesn't want to give it to you in most cases. And this is one of those cases where he's being honest, like, look, we're all new to this. I'm new to it. Every player on this roster is new to it. You can't fake something that isn't there. Like we don't care about this game. You know, he didn't say it in all these words, but essentially the gist I got from it was we don't care about this game as much as you guys do yet. That's just the reality of the situation. And also it does us no good to psych ourselves out of our gourd in preparation for it. That doesn't mean we don't feel the gravity of it. That doesn't mean we don't understand how important it is to the university and how much we want to win it and how important a big rivalry game and how exciting that's going to be in general. But there is a lack of like institutional knowledge and built-in excitement about the game for a group of entirely new coaching staff and players. And I think that's completely fair. I don't know, like he didn't say all of those things. I'm definitely filling in some gaps there for him. But to me, nothing he said was like shocking or outside the lines there.
That's how I think anyone in that situation would feel.
But I remember when we talked to Coach Pitino in September, we had him on the show and we asked about the shootout. And he said like, oh, when I first got here, I'm like, oh, what's the big deal? And then UC fans come up to you when you're like out at dinner or whatever. He's like, all right, it's time to shut these guys up. But I also think like going into it, of course, no one has played in it before. You don't know what to expect. You don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is. You want to make it more about yourself. You want to prepare for it like it's a game. You're playing a Big 12 team, and it's a game that you're trying to win. It'd be huge for the season. But after the game, we saw what Quincy Oliveri posted on Instagram today. Just photos of him from his lone shootout saying a game you simply cannot lose. And then on the next slide saying like literally life changed after that or something along those lines. So I think like after the fact, it's a lot easier to talk about how big it is. But before, what are you going to say?
You
like,
can't know.
oh, this is a big game. And I'm nervous for it. Like,
yeah, I mean, to your point, like, what is he supposed to say? I'm going to go out there and punch Wes Miller in the face before we even tip this off. Like, there's nothing you can say that would be satisfactory for the fans in terms of like being amped enough. So, the other part of it is in a clipping era where we just take these little snippets of everything, we put them out there. It's like he had mentioned multiple times about like, we know how big of a game this is. This is huge. Like he said all the right things 3 or 4 times, and then a 4th or 5th or 6th question came up about kind of the same thing, and he was like, all right, like, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, sure, but also we're new to it. So, it wasn't like he just brought that up and only that and was like downplaying the shootout. He definitely played it up as big as it needed to be, I thought.
Yeah, there was no little clips that could be put out on social media that's going to be any type of quote unquote bulletin board material. Now, Rick, when you said what's he supposed to say, quote, I'm going to punch Wes Miller in the face before the game, I think we will clip that and just post that and say like Rick is like hostile or whatever.
He's unhinged.
Yeah. So sorry.
There's plenty of people that believe that. That's not like a hard one to get.
I mean, I kind of believed it when you said it.
Right.
I was a little bit like, oh man,
yeah, he might.
Myself a little bit.
He might.
Anything else on this game from Kenny or Rick on what you think? Predictions? I think we pretty much beat that one into the ground.
Yeah,
did you guys do score predict? I know Rick, you did yours. Did you guys do?
Kenny and I did.
Okay.
We did it with Paul, and I said that Xavier was going to win by 7. I think that. Dude, there's only so much you can talk about. There's a lot of unknowns about. There's a lot of unknowns about this game. Something for me that is going to be interesting to keep an eye on, though, is Malik Messina Moore. It just feels like this is the type of game that a Xavier guy comes out and has a big performance. And I don't think there's anybody that doubts that he has the ability to be a very good scorer. So I think that it would be. If he gets hot early and starts to feel the crowd,
that's a potential X factor because he hasn't scored much lately. That could be a good one.
I mean, that's that, and like something I'm also going to be watching very closely is when he gets in the game, Anthony Robinson, how physical he is, because I think that is something that could potentially change the tide of a game if he's able to come in and really give that physical presence in a game like this. So those, I mean, Messina Moore, like that's kind of like a pie in the sky hopeful thing, but Anthony Robinson, that's something that I'm going to be looking for. I want to see him be very physical in this game, even if it means he doesn't get to play a lot because he's in foul trouble or whatever it is. I think that's something that he can do to really help the team.
So I had a coaching friend that watched Xavier practice. I was about to say NKU. I'm just got the Norse on the brain here, but I had a coaching friend that watched Xavier practice, and this was in the summer, and they were talking to some of the guys around. They're like, "Who do you think is going to be your best player?" And they said Malik Messina Moore, and my friend goes, "That's interesting because he's only taken one shot the entire practice," and so we've seen from him that he doesn't really want the ball. He doesn't really want the shot. I find it hard to believe that a guy is going to step up in this environment who isn't like a guy who's like, I want those moments. Yeah. I want those shots. A lot of times it is the guy who kind of has that and maybe hasn't performed well enough, hasn't made the shots in the past, but they've wanted the shots. I don't know that I'm not predicting. I've seen a lot of people predicting him to step up and be kind of the X factor in this game. I don't see that happening. And the only other thing I'd add prediction wise is Kenny was talking about Xavier could win this game by 15. That is the one scenario that I would be absolutely like Xavier winning in blowout fashion. I'd be stunned by. I just don't think they have the firepower to blow hardly anyone out, much less like a high major team that's a rivalry game. I could see UC winning this game by about 15-20 and not being that surprised by it. I could see Xavier winning a close one. I could see UC winning a close one. The one thing that would stun me is if Xavier pulled off a 12+ point win. That would be mind blowing, I think.
Yeah, I mean the reason that I said that was simply because Xavier has the ability to make a lot of threes in a hurry, and they can beat anybody if they make a lot of threes in a hurry like that. But it's just the point that I was trying to make is that if they're going to do something like changing up matchups on Jovan, or if they don't change up the matchup on Jovan and he is able to take 12 threes and he just goes absolutely insane and makes 7 or 8 of them. I mean, it's a difficult thing for teams to get over the hump of somebody, a 14-point scorer scoring 25. It makes a difference in the game. And so that was my point behind that. I'm not saying that, stacking them up man to man, that I think Xavier it could win this game by 15, but
no, for sure.
There's just if Xavier's able to put that all together on the 3-point line with the crowd behind them, that I think that they could really make UC kind of fold because of all the reasons you talked about with Wes Miller and all the pressure that he has. And I would be interested to know, I don't follow them enough and I don't pay attention enough to really see the kind of person that Wes Miller is. So a lot of times when coaches get into these situations, and I'm sure you've seen it before, you handle it one of two ways. You either start blaming everything on the players, or you blame everything on yourself, hoping that the players kind of rally behind you. And I don't really know what kind of coach he is and how much pressure he's putting on them to save his job. So, because that's a different pressure than playing in front of 10,000 people in a hostile environment. So it's like, I just don't know where his head is with that kind of stuff.
I think that's really well said. And I can't speak on the way he's been in the locker room, obviously, but I will say the last few games, and they haven't played well, so it could just be some of that frustration boiling over, but I don't think the body language has been right with that team. They look a little disconnected, or whatever term you want to use with the staff right now. And that's where I'm really kind of driving that storyline of, it feels like the walls are caving in a little bit on them and they're feeling the pressure of their head coach because something looks off. And you win this game by 10 points, then all's right in the world, I'm sure, and everything looks good again. And we're not talking about that. But for right now, I'm very interested in that.
And I guess that's one reason I can see Xavier blowing them out in a weird scenario of just like a fatigue setting. And that's got to be fatiguing, like just that day in, day out pressure. And I could see it just like Xavier punches them and it's just like gets to be blown out, or and they just crumble. Like I could see it. That's something that I do see as a potential. But I just don't know what that team is. And Rick, this is one question I have for you too. I don't think Xavier is really an unknown commodity anymore. I think we kind of know what Xavier is. With UC, I don't. Do you think they still have the ability to rise up and meet that challenge, or do you think that they've regressed overall as a team?
The one thing I would point to that is being glossed over a little bit because they've had the 2 bad performances against Eastern Michigan and Tarleton State is look at the Louisville game.
I know.
Watch 30 minutes of that Louisville game and tell me Xavier's beating the team that UC looked like that night.
Yeah.
They looked pretty damn good for 30 minutes of that game, or at least 25 or whatever it was where they started to lose it. And I get it. You got to play a full game. You lost that game by double digits, but Louisville's really good.
Yeah.
And they're really talented. It's a different animal than playing against Xavier. So if UC shows up in that way, I don't think Xavier has much of a chance, to be quite honest with you. And they're not that far removed from that. So yeah, I think it's in there for UC to be much better than Xavier, but I'm not confident that they're going to be that team tomorrow night.
And that Louisville UC game was played where? Heritage Bank Center. So let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? Let's pivot from this year to how many years ago was that?
Heritage Bank?
By now. Let's go back to...
You're looking at about 11 years.
Yeah, let's go back to 2011. Was that right, Kenny? 2011?
2011 was the game. That was the brawl.
So it's interesting because if you go to Wikipedia and type in Crosstown Shootout, it'll say see also 2011 Crosstown Shootout. Like it has its own thing. It does. I literally
it's a Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
I like that.
But Kenny, could you just kind of walk us through what led up to all of that? You don't have to go into crazy specifics. I think we all have a pretty good understanding, but I also know there's a lot of Xavier students that listen to our podcast that were really young when that happened, that they've seen the videos and have a little bit of knowledge, but probably don't know the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, so it all started with Twitter, and Twitter was in its,
as it always does,
infancy.
It was a baby at that time, and it was really the emergence of social media in general. I mean, Facebook was the big thing back then.
That was when you created Tall Freak 1018.
No, I created Tall Freak 1018 when I was probably 11 years old, and I got
I told you it had to be long.
Dang.
Yeah, I got my an Xbox, and that was my gamer tag. So we also, we were all on Twitter. We were all kind of getting into it a little bit, and all of the the tough skin that you have now for Twitter. When you read shit about yourself and all that stuff, that wasn't there. It really felt like somebody was talking to you. And so those emotions started to boil up. And Xavier and Cincinnati were way more interconnected when I was playing. We used to play together every week in the summer. We would have open gyms, and those open gyms were just as intense as the Crosstown Shootout. I mean, it was a battle every single Wednesday night from 8 to freaking midnight. We were in there playing against each other. So, there was just a lot of that going back and forth. And somebody, I can't even remember who it was, somebody had said that Tu Holloway wouldn't even play.
Sean Kilpatrick.
He wouldn't even get 10 minutes on UC's team. And, it was a whole thing. And then obviously, we're winning by 23, and, that just, we knew all those guys really well. And, I had known Yancey since I was probably 12 or 13 years old playing AAU basketball against him. So, I mean, a lot of these relationships had been forged a long time ago, and the anger and tension between us was not just from that game. But, it all boiled over because they were just getting their asses beat. I mean, we were putting it to them, and they had nothing to do to stop us. We were just a much better team, and they took it out in the only way they knew how. So that's it.
As I remember the way it started, Tu Holloway was letting their bench know about the ass kicking they had just received.
Yeah.
In his words, I was just letting those guys know that they're not like me.
Yeah.
They're cut from Xavier's players were cut from a different cloth.
Yeah,
we went on from there, as you might remember. And then Jelon Gwynn threw a basketball at him, right?
Yeah. And then Tu threw it back, and then Des Wells jumped over top and Superman punched somebody. And then that was when the whole thing was crazy. Awesome. Because I remember standing at the 3-point line, and I was like, all right, it's done now. And I walked in, and I'm putting my hands out like this, and I'm looking to my right. And I just remember, I mean, I can still feel it if I think about it. Like it felt like somebody threw a brick at my head, and it was just like boom right there. And I remember like I didn't even know it. Like honestly, the first thought in my head was somebody threw something from the crowd. Like because that fucking hurt. Well,
it probably would have killed me.
I mean, that's the one of the points that I think is lost on a lot of people is these freaking 5'3", 110-pound soaking wet dudes that are tweeting from their basement talking about me getting punched. Yeah, well, I mean, all of them, every single one of them that likes to tweet that, like they wouldn't have gotten up. We'd have all went to their funeral the next day.
Like honestly, it might have.
We kind of live on a different playing field.
You're 1,000% correct.
So it's like that part of it is still funny to me, and it's something that like my friends and family and the players on the team at the time they talk about. But it was just the madness that ensued after that game. I was telling you guys before we started talking, I got off the court. I got stitches. Flukes gave me stitches in the back in the training room, and I went back in and I immediately tweeted out something about how Yancey couldn't do anything with me. The only thing he could do to stop me was punch me and blah, blah, blah. And like, I mean, I'm talking about immediately because every single person on the coaching staff had like an alert set. When there was a tweet that went out from one of their players, they knew. So, I mean, like within an instant, Max in my face, like, get that fucking tweet down, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Oh, wow.
So can I share a story about the tweet alerts?
Yeah.
So you're right. They did. And I was on that too. And so occasionally there was like a thing that I would tweet out and then be like, hey, take that down or whatever. Or like something's going on, do this. And I blocked Chris Mack at one point so he wouldn't see when I put out new tweets. And after like 2 months, he noticed it. I guess he was looking for something and he noticed it and he tweeted out about that. Like he called me out on it on Twitter.
Yeah, it is.
That's
it's
hilarious.
I mean, they had like, I mean, it was not just social media. It was the entire internet. Like anytime something was posted on any website, there was an alert. And I actually saw it in action. There was a lot of different things that had come out about me at Xavier that we don't need to talk about right now. But, it was like, they always knew. They knew everything all the time that was happening. And social media obviously took that to a whole different level. But the craziest part is, then that night, my whole family was in town. So my dad was like, what do you want to do tonight? And I was like, I want to go get a beer. And he was like, all right. So we went out to freaking Dave and Buster's. No, not Dave and Buster's. What's the one that's over there in Newport on the Levee? Is that Dave and No, like GameWorks?
GameWorks. Yeah, it used to be GameWorks. I don't know if it's still there, but it was GameWorks.
So we went over there and we were sitting there and this guy, he was just, I can't remember what he was saying, but it was something about Yancey and all this stuff. And I remember I just looked at my dad and I was like, my dad's like, 6'4", 6'5", 225. I mean, he was a Marine. And I just looked at my dad and I was like, can you go handle that? I can't listen to it anymore. And my dad went over and those people left. It was very quick. They were out of the building. But then it was just, but like that night was crazy. And just the buzz around the university at the time was just wild. I mean, it was for like weeks, it was crazy. And then obviously we have to go play Richmond right after that. And, I'm coming off of this. I got stitches in my eye. We're playing Richmond. It was one of my worst games ever because every single time I touched the ball, it was like four guys were just like, and I'm looking around. Who else was even on the team? Like, dude, like half of our team was gone. I'm looking around like, who the fuck am I going to pass the ball to?
Yeah.
And it was, when you go from having the security blanket of two and Cheeks and Dez and those guys that, you can really count on to just like looking around, like, where's my team at? It was crazy. And that's not disrespect to anybody else that was out there. It's just not who you're used to playing.
Well,
it's not too Holloway.
And I remember I was just talking to Cap about this yesterday after all the suspensions. The next game, I think the very next game, if I'm not mistaken, was Oral Roberts, right?
Oral Roberts. That's what I'm thinking.
And
not
I
Richmond,
remember.
That's exactly who it was. They were double and tripling me every single time I touched the ball.
I remember the ESPN, the top ESPN article on the website in all of sports was a picture of Tu Holloway and Mark Lyons on the bench, and it said suspended reality. And I'm like, Man, Xavier's like been on ESPN
Needle movers.
nonstop.
Xavier University.
But Rick, I know you were covering the team. Then is there anything like, not just with that game, but just like you've had your share of crazy moments you've been a part of, I'm sure. What are some of the, I guess you would say highlights for lack of a better term, but the most interesting moments that have happened during this rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, the shootout is my favorite moment. I just told this story on my podcast last night, and here's what I found so funny about Kenny telling that story. We both started it off almost the exact same way by explaining Twitter and where Twitter played such a big role in that moment, but it was so different from the way it is now. And his point about like you really felt like someone was talking to you is a great point, because this is pre-algorithms, and it's also pre like this viral world where everyone's online. It was very niche, and not everyone did it. And basically, if you sent out a tweet, no one saw it unless they were following you and they happened to be looking at Twitter at that moment. It just got lost in a feed. It was only like around, I think that the like social media managers, they had a stat that like the average tweet lasted 15 minutes or something. Its lifespan before you didn't see it anymore for the most part. That was like the average. So it was like just a completely different world online. So he's right. I mean, like I tell the story that I loved that game because it went from, it's like my second shootout that I've covered running the site. Twitter's new, but it's like a big thing in the journalism world. And like, you're tweeting to nobody for most of the time. And then all of a sudden you're at the center of the sports world for 48 hours. Right. And like, I got 1,500 followers within a 48-hour period, which, I went from, I think like 300 to now I'm in, close to 2,000 all of a sudden or whatever it was. So it was just it was so crazy. And the thing I remember most about it is the Twitter aspect of it and how different everything was back then. And then, like he said, the players tweeting stuff. Like I remember Kenny sending out the tweets that saying like, and I still walked out of there with my head held high was like the final line to his tweet. And then they got deleted immediately. And it was like on the message board and everyone was talking about it. So that's a good trip down memory lane. But then not to bring up the bad part of it, but the Oral Roberts game happened. You lose that one. You lost 5 of the next 6. Before you guys got it turned around and got back into the NCAA tournament. And
did we lose to Hawaii?
You lost to Hawaii. You lost to Hawaii in overtime. You beat Southern Illinois, and then you lost to Gonzaga and LaSalle.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was Oral Roberts, Long Beach State, Hawaii, back to back that you lost after the shootout.
Yeah.
Man, and I think number 8 in the country.
At the time, Hawaii was like 250 plus. Something like that. I mean,
13 and Ken Palm, and you guys were 38.
Yeah. I mean, it was
wow.
But and the fact that we came back in that season and still went to the Sweet 16 still blows my mind. Right. I mean, like, and that really just shows
the fight in the team.
How the fight, and also just like there wasn't anything that was stopping me and two from going back there again, because we had been there twice, and then like we play Notre Dame and like should not have won that game. Came back down like 8 with like 3 minutes to go or some shit against Notre Dame, who like that doesn't happen against Notre Dame. And then obviously Lehigh beat Duke, and that was like, okay, well, we're beating Lehigh. There's no chance we're losing to Lehigh. So then, and we went out and just absolutely demolished them. And then the Baylor game, it was like, we kind of shot ourselves out of that game for a while, and then started coming back, and that was a really weird game too. Playing in the Georgia Dome is like you're only playing with fans on one side of the arena, and it was weird, man. And like that, those memories are so crazy, because like I haven't thought about this in years, but before the game, like Jim Nance comes walking up to me and just like, Kenny Freeze, how you doing, man? I just played golf with your uncle. And I'm like, which uncle? What are you talking about? Like hadn't just never put it together. One of my uncle's neighbors is big in the golf world, and it's this whole thing. But it's just like so crazy to me, like watching the Masters all these years. And like I talked to Jim Nance about not basketball, just talking to him. It's a weird thing to think about. But that whole experience of coming back from like the ultimate low that you can have 4 guys get suspended, 2's gone for 6 games. I mean, it was, dude, crazy, absolutely insane. And still, and at the time being in the A10, it was probably the best possible place for us to be, because you knew we were still going to run through the A10. And we obviously, I don't think we did as good as we probably would have without the hiccup, but it put us in a good spot to be able to make the tournament and put ourselves in a position to win games.
I think the best shootout I covered was the one 2 years before that, like actual game wise. That was the Lance Stevenson, Jordan Crawford year where Xavier won in double overtime. And I think that was like where I wasn't two made like 1 billion free throws or something in that game. Does that sound right? Like, I think that was sort of a two Holloway. People started to realize that he might be kind of different moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it amazed me how many times two would end the game with 27 and have like 11 or 12 free throws. Like he just knew how to draw contact. And, you know, I can't remember. I mean, right around that time was when the whole, like, when you're dribbling and you like throw your head back.
He was the best at it.
Dude, he was incredible at it. And like he I don't know if it was Steele that showed him that or what, but like he really knew how to do it and do it in a way where, like, yeah, I mean, maybe he was flopping, but he was putting people in bad positions on defense where it looked like they were fouling him.
Yeah, he was timing up the defenders, basically. Yeah.
Right. So, but
pump fakes, it was crazy.
Yeah, that sounds right though, because I mean, he had a lot of games like that where he was able to really seal games because he shot like, I don't know, 92% from the free throw line. So,
yeah, I was on the floor because Brian Snow still ran Musketeer Scoop at the time. And I was taking pictures for him. So I was sitting on the floor close to Xavier's bench. And that was it came out later that Lance Stevenson had been calling Chris Mack slurs during the game. And there were two different occasions where they had to stop the game because players came face to face. No punches were thrown, but like they were jawing and benches sort of came cleared for a second and they had to get everybody back in their spots. So that was an intense game, but like a really good basketball game too, with really high level players.
Well, and Lance is like, he's gonna ruffle some feathers no matter what game he's playing in. He was that was the kind of player he was. But like,
I mean, he blew in LeBron's ear. I mean, it knew no bounds.
Yeah, that got him in a song by Nicki Minaj too. So I think that's awesome.
But like, I mean, the thing is like, if I'm picking between Lance Stevenson or Jordan Crawford, like, give me Jordan Crawford every time. So
what a matchup.
We had the right guy on our side.
What a matchup. Rick, what is your favorite shootout memory? Are we maybe most obscure, like something that you like that maybe hasn't been talked about that much?
Even if it doesn't have anything to do with what happened on the court or the game itself.
That's tough because the brawl is my favorite moment for sure. Like I loved that
Mine
game.
Is Mick and JP.
Everything about it. Oh, yeah, Mick and JP is a funny one. I think everyone knows, you know, what happened with that, but like seeing Mick charge back at JP after the handshake line and immediately, like, I was watching Mick the whole time because I knew he was just losing it. And I watched it happen. So immediately I'm like on the phone. I'm like, what happened? What was said? And someone who was right in the spot was able to tell me word for word that Mick Cronin came back for JP and said, "You want a piece of me, MFer," as he came back and acted like he was going to fight him. And I mean, just such an absurd moment that you could only get from the crosstown shootout in Mick Cronin. Like, Mick Cronin was so perfect for the shootout. It's insane.
You'll never get anything like that ever again. And I loved, I was just all over the internet for like 2 days straight. And I loved Chad Brendel talking about it. He said he was in like the tunnel where like the players were coming back in. And he said he just saw JP turn the corner with just like the biggest shit-eating grin ever, just like having gotten to Mick Cronin. And it was just, they were like, Mick was the perfect head coach for JP.
Yeah. Yeah, like Andy Mack still gets so worked up about Mick saying he never would recruit a player like JP. And he's like, he called him 48 times while he was on Xavier's campus.
It's hilarious.
He still gets super worked up about it. He was getting worked up about Pete Dillon. I love it. But like, man, Mick Cronin was the absolute best. And I think that was what just made this rivalry so special and different, was like, literally they're both from the city. I don't know about you. You know way more than I do, Rick. Do they genuinely not like each other?
Yeah, I think there was like that thing where they grew up together. I think it was more so like Mac and Mick's brother that were kind of like on the teams together, and Mick was kind of tagging along as the younger guy. So it's probably more of one of those things where it's like kind of annoying. You knew him, you grow up, you're fine with him, but he's a little bit annoying. And then you grow up and you're kind of now rivals, and you probably didn't like each other all that much throughout the high school and college era. You kind of always knew about that guy, and he wasn't your favorite. And now it's easy to dislike him because he's your rival. So like, I think they'll always say they were fine and they grew up together and they were friends publicly. There's no doubt they didn't like each other. And I think there were some years where they were actually like really kind of hated each other a little bit. I don't think there's a lot of animosity.
Get sick of talking about it too. Like, it's just so in your face all the time. And I also like, it's funny now that we're like sometimes in the post-game press conference room and it's just like there's 5 people in there. What was it like being back there, like when Mac and Mick are coming in there?
Hilarious because they were so over the top. I mean, Mick would set the tone, say ridiculous things like JP. What did he say? JP said the F word to him 3 times or something.
I've never had someone tell me F off 3 times before.
Yeah, and then like that he would never recruit him, and then Matt came in and be like, "That's not going to be the narrative. That's not going to be the narrative. We kicked their ass.
Good.
That's the narrative."
They're
like,
so good.
Those press conferences were so funny between those two.
And right after with Mick, the biggest, like your biggest thing of the season, a game you cannot win. We're talking about Benadryl. Like that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that we're causing. I'm just like, what are we like after a basketball game? We're gonna talk about that.
So on the Mick Cronin topic, do you guys think? Well, I'll preface this by saying I don't know if you saw his recent quote about UC, but in a press conference, he mentioned that he feels really bad about the fact that the school he left his alma mater, and he feels really bad about the fact that they haven't gotten back to the tournament since.
He respects him so much he left them.
Things haven't been going all that great at UCLA the last few years. I don't know that they're still as enchanted with him as they once were. Is there any possibility that Wes gets fired and they're able to convince him to come back?
Yes, I think so. I feel like that's just what's happening in coaching. Like, I mean, look at in college football, it's happened a lot. Look at Rich Rod at West Virginia. Look at Scott Frost back to UCF. I think it sometimes takes it happened with Sean Miller. I mean, sometimes you think the grass is greener somewhere else. You go somewhere else. It doesn't work out. Hey, I can go back to this place. I know they're probably going to be okay with me. Some of the fans aren't. We saw that with Sean when he got hired the second time. There were fans that were like, no, I don't want this. Whatever. We should have kept Steele. Whatever. Most of the fans didn't feel that way, but I think it would be a similar situation with UC. Like I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. I'd be all for it, honestly, just for the entertainment.
It would be. I'm so for it. He's the
we
perfect.
Need the mixture back for the shootout.
He's the perfect UC head coach. And what's crazy is like how close it was to being like Mac. Like there's an alternate universe where like Mac and Mick both come back in some other multiverse somewhere.
I think there's a world in which they're competing for that job if it opens up this offseason.
That'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
That would be wild.
Dude,
Co-head coaches.
Do you think Mac would take that?
I can't see that.
I don't think
no way in hell.
I do
Mac
after
taking that job.
Well, whatever. I don't know. I agree with you. It's hard to believe it would happen, but I think UC. I don't think it would ultimately work out between the two parties. I think neither one of them would let it happen,
right.
But I think it will come up if the job opens.
That felt like Goodman.
Yeah.
Felt like a Goodman bomb.
Dude, that would be a
but I would love it. Mick is
thing.
my favorite UC coach of all time, and it's not even close. Like it was amazing.
My favorite moment is when they lost to who was it that they had the massive lead on in the tournament? Was it New Mexico?
Nevada.
Nevada. Okay.
Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada. That's right. So they have the massive lead on them. They blow it with that really good team. And Jeremy Rao is asking him after the game, like, is this the type of loss that's going to keep you up at night? And he fires back, I haven't been asleep yet, Jeremy. What type of stupid question is that or whatever? And then he talks about how he doesn't care about winning Sweet 16. He doesn't care about getting the Sweet 16. He's like, I care about Final Fours and championships. You guys care about the Sweet 16, not me.
I don't.
It's like, well, just an insane logic to use in that moment.
Yeah, right.
It's literally a prerequisite to make the okay.
I haven't been asleep yet. I don't know.
I'll tell you after I sleep tonight.
Yeah. Jeremy Rao. Like every now and then I'll just text Jeremy that out of the blue. I'll just text him word for word that.
It don't get any better than that.
I love that. That's a great quote.
It is.
I mean, that's a great answer.
How's he gonna know?
I don't care about
I haven't been asleep yet. I mean, he's not wrong. There's no lie in that at all.
Doesn't get any better than that. Anything else, Coop, Rick, about the shootout?
It's coming up.
It is coming up.
There you go.
Confirmed.
By the time you're listening to this, it's a few hours away. Hell, it may have already happened.
Sources can confirm.
Rick, any plugs that you would like to give to the people or anything else that you would like to talk about with myself, Kenny Freeze, or Coop Ledford?
Yeah, go subscribe to the Roll Blob podcast. Watch their post-game show at Dana's. Go subscribe to the Rebound Rundown. Go watch Mo Egger's show on 1530 or wherever you get that. And thanks everybody for talking to me this week. Appreciate it.
Also, Rick, speaking of talking, there's something I've been wanting to ask you for a while. I just didn't know when the appropriate time was. Okay. So you're doing the NKU radio, right? You're the
Correct.
analyst. So do you actually, because I listen to you guys sometimes on the
Okay.
radio, do you actually stop talking when you go under a bridge in real life or just on the radio?
Does it just sound like it?
Hit me with. I'm not picking up on this. Hit me with it again.
So
I'm
I
too slow for the
listen
joke.
to you call the game on the radio.
Yes.
There's a bridge near my home. I drive under the bridge. You stop talking temporarily.
Every time.
Yes. We just paused. We just paused to wait for you to get done with it. Okay,
Just a
I got it now.
coincidence.
So
I
in
got
real life, you stop talking
I just
when
paused.
you're
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence.
going under a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a GPS system, Coop, that keeps
Crazy
track of where
coincidence.
everyone is, where every listener is at all times. It's like, oh,
What
They're
is
going over the
station?
bridge.
What is station identification?
Yeah. And let's pause for it.
Why are we
that's
pausing?
ESPN 1530 or Fox Sports 1360 or 700 WLW. That's
What
all
are
that
they?
is.
What are they doing? What are they?
They're just
identifying?
tagging because, like, if something's syndicated to multiple markets, they just play whatever market you're in tag. So whatever local market you're hearing the game on, will just be like, you're listening to ESPN 1530. That's station identification right there, baby.
Oh, okay.
You know, some cars are sold without FM radio capabilities or
That's
AM
happening.
radio. It's crazy.
Kenny, what do you listen to while you drive? You're a radio guy, podcast guy?
I mean, if I'm driving a long way, I listen to books. But if I'm just driving in the car,
What series were you just going through, Ken?
series was I just going
You
through?
just
My wife got me on this freaking was it Throne of Glass or something like that. I'm on like the 7th book of it or something. It's pretty. It's
It's not
pretty
like a romance novel. There's no
No.
way Rick listens to music in the car. There's no way.
Oh, I bet he does. I bet he does.
No way.
I bet he's a 102.3 the beat kind of guy. I know
Guess
he
who-
is.
I don't listen to the radio. I listen to Spotify, mostly podcast. You're right, Cap. But I just did my Spotify wrap up. Guess who my top 2 musical artists listened to this year were?
Oh, no
Okay.
chance
I
in
want
hell.
to
Same
take
as the last probably 10 years.
last 10 years. Jeez.
Who do you?
I'm
in the
gonna say
Blowfish?
it's like T.I. or something.
Outcast.
I got nothing.
It's rap.
I'm not a big music guy.
Sabrina Carpenter's not old enough to be having 10 years of history. I don't know.
10 years ago.
I'm going rap or hip hop.
J. Cole.
It is. It's Rick Ross is number 1 always. And Drake is a number 2, but I think it's mostly because Drake is in a lot of Rick Ross's songs from that era that happen to get thrown in there. There's
Yeah.
a new artist though that has made the list. I just like obese rappers for the most part. So Big X the Plug is kind of working his way up.
Yeah, that's a good play.
He's,
That's a
he's
good
the
play.
biggest and the largest.
Well, Coop, do you want to give us your radio plug, like 103 The Bowl or whatever the case may be, and then Kenny can send us out?
I guess we could like
Let's pause for station identification.
Yeah.
let's pause for station identification. Kenny, 2 words to send us off.
Stay blobbing.